Uh, Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to explain to you today how we use shared preferences in Android to store basic information. In this scenario, we're going to use it to store like user information, like the user ID and then the password and then the email. It's kind of like a register, local registration. So when you click on register, it will save this information locally in the shared preferences, and it will take you to the next activity where we have another activity called main menu. And the main menu right now, it has nothing but just couple text field. And one field will be passed from the first screen. The other field will be passed, we will get it from the shared preferences. So I'll show you how we can use shared preferences within your application. All right, so in the main activity, so go ahead, you create an app. In the main activity, you will put the following fields in it: user ID, password, and an email. And I've already done that just to save time. So I call this edit user, edit password, and edit email. All right. And we set the hints for these, and we have a button. This button already, I have a function already, method that already created, and the click button on click, we selected from here in the submit button. So if we go to the Java class, here's the Java class. In the Java class, we have, this is the onCreate, that's the default method that exists. And I have created another method. This method is called submit. And in it, all I'm doing right now is just defining the information, the username, the widgets, get the widgets from the screen, and get the value for these widgets, whatever that you enter in those fields. All right. We've covered these in previous videos, so no need to spend time on doing it. All right. So I'm going to pause the video and give you time to do that. All right. So you create the, go back again, you create the app, you create in the main activity, you put the following fields, you put the register button, you select, you name those fields differently. All right. And then in the button, you click on, you select the register, you select the on-click, the submit button from the functions. All right. I'll pause this for a minute to give you a chance to do that. After you, and then of course, you need to do the Java code to define, to get those fields. All right, let's see. I have, this is in my way. So, all right. So the main activity here. All right. All right, so as I said, the idea is that when we run the application, and if I go ahead and run it, it's going to take you to this screen here, right? So this is like you're mimicking, you're registering for an app. You first downloaded the app, you will ask you to enter a username, password, and an email. And then when you click on register, what we're going to do, typically you validate the information. And then after that, if everything is valid, we're going to store this information where? We're going to store this information inside the shared preference. Again, shared preference allow you to store key value pairs, all right? And a good use of it is how to store user information because it's small, all right? So that's what we're going to do. If we go back to the code, the steps to do that, after we get the information, and then obviously after this, you need to do what? You validate user input. But we're not going to do that. You can do that on your own. After, if you validate, the next step would be what? The next step is to, if everything is valid, we will what? We will save the data, user data, to the shared preferences. All right. How do we do this? How do we get access to the shared preference, and how do we add data to it? So that's the first step. So to do that, we use the shared preference class, and we define my preference as the object. Then we use the constructor to create the shared preference class. So there is a method called getSharedPreference. This is the one that we will use that will create the object if it does not exist, or if it exists, it will give me a reference to it. You need to pass to it two values. One of them is the preference name, and the other one is the mode, how you're going to add it. So the preference name, I'm going to give it a name, my preference. And then for the mode, it's going to be context.private. So it's a the other one is append. So private allow you to basically make this as a private shared preference, and the append allow you to add to it. Type. After this, you cannot edit this unless you have to use the preference editor. So you need to define an editor in order to manipulate the data that you store in this shared preference. So you can say editor equal, the object is editor, and then we need to say my preference, get me the editor for this preference that we just created above. We're gonna edit it, yeah? So allow me to, so the first step is you create you get access to the shared preference. The next thing to do is that you get the editor that allow you to edit, meaning add, delete, remove, or clear the data. All right, so that's the first step. Okay, we get access to the shared preferences. The next step is to do what? The next step is to start putting values in this shared preference. So how do we put values in the shared preference? We use the editor that we created here, and then we set the values that we want. For example, if I say editor dot put string, and then here you will put the key and its value. We have here 3 keys, which is the username, password, and an email. So I can put username here. That's the key. And then the next thing is the value. Where does the value come from? The value comes from the user input. And this is the user input this is the input that the user, this is the object that contains what the user has entered. So here I will put what? I will put the user input, which is what? Username. All right. So that's the first step. So what does this happen? What happens now? It basically, you're putting the key and its value in this shared preference called my preference. All right, which remember is just nothing but an XML file with an attribute and its value. Type. We have another value here, which is what? I'm going to copy this, command copy. They're all strings. In addition to strings, you can do put integer, put boolean, put the float, put long. All these basic data types, you can put them in this XML file. So we got the username, we got the user password, we're gonna put the user pass, we're going to put user email, and I'm gonna change this to user pass and user email. Okay, so that will put these values in the shared preference, but nothing happens unless you issue a commit, which is basically editor.commit. This one will actually commit the changes. That means it actually writes them to the shared preference. Without this, nothing happens. Now, if you tell me, okay, what do you see when this happens? Actually, what you don't see anything. You don't see, you obviously, if there's an error, you will get an error. But if there's no error, it actually means that the changes has happened, and then the data is being stored in this shared preference. All right. So what I'm going to do, the first step, is that I'm going to show you how we get the data afterwards. But for now, all I want to see, does it actually work or not? Did it actually work or not? So let's test it and see if that works. You can put it in debug so you can see, I'll show you what's happening inside this debug. All right, so I'm going to run it. So if I enter now the values, password, this is 1234, whatever, it's just password, and then an email. And then I click on OK, and then I click on register. Now it's taking me to the debug. Now what happens if I step through it? It's created the object for me, it created the file, it puts the values, this is okay, and then this is okay. And now if I run it, it actually saved the information. So that's the first step. You save the information in the shared preference. Now what do we do? How do we know that I actually saved the information in shared preference? Well, what you can do is that you need to get the code that you need to basically read this data that you put in the shared preference and put it back on the screen or do something with it, all right? Like, how do we do that? I'm gonna pause this for a minute and I'll give you time to try it. Okay, so in the first part, we were able to save the information in the shared preference. But how do we get the actual data from this shared preference? What you need to do in the onCreate, what we're going to do, before we start, we need to check, do I have actually the shared preference and do I have data in it? If I have it, that means I already registered the first time. And I'm going to display, for now, I'm just going to display it on the screen. So how do we do that part? Again, I already have this, so I'm going to take this shared preference. We're not editing it here, only I want to get the reference to it. So I'm going to do this, copy this here. And I am going to do one more thing here, which is the username. I'm going to get the username. And this is edit text. All right. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to find the username in this shared preference. If we find this name, I'm going to put it on the screen. All right. So how do we do this part? I will say my preference. Now, to get something from the shared preference, we say get, and then whatever type of value that we have. So if I say get, we store them as a string, I'm going to put get string. Get what? You need to use those keys. So if I want to get the username, I have to use the same key that I stored it first, and then I will put it in get preference here. So I will put the username, and if I don't find it, I'm going to put null value. All right. So what this does, it tries to find this username in this shared preference. If it finds it, we have a value. If we don't have if we don't find it, we will have an error. And where I'm going to do this, I'm going to define it here: username, string, username equal this. All right. So string username get me the value that is stored in the shared preference. And there are two options. You will get either a null or you don't get a null. If you don't get a null, if username does not equal to null, what does that mean? That means I found it stored in the shared preference. Okay, so what do I want to do if it's not null? I'm going to display it only on the screen. So I have this widget. I'm going to say username dot set text all right, username, no, not that one. User underscore name that set text, and then we're going to set it to the username that we found from the shared preference. Okay, so now we already ran this application once. We already clicked on the register. So what should happen, it should actually find this field in the database, in the shared preference. So since it's going to find it, it will put it in the display, on the screen. I'm gonna put this in debug again to show you what happens, okay? So I'm going to debug it. And it came on create right away. Screen is empty because we haven't set it up yet. So now what happens if I do step over, step over, step over? So notice the username here is whatever I typed, Alio. So now if I click on next, if I click on run, if I go back to the application, now I found it already. Okay, good. So that's if I run it from the application. What if I actually stop it from here and make sure that it stopped in the Android, it stopped here. What if I just open it from here? It's called shared preference here. What if I open it from here? It's still going to put the name. So the name, this username is already stored in your application. All right, it's already stored in your application. Now, how do I get rid of it? Again, either you clear the data or you uninstall the application. If I go in here and uninstall the application, now, if I run it again, it's gone. If I run it again from here, do you think we will get that username on the screen? Do you think we'll get it on the screen? It's not there. We did not find it. Why? Because we deleted the application. We deleted the application and we deleted everything related to it, including the shared preference. Is that clear? So let me pause this to ask questions here. All right, so we've done this part. Now, how do we utilize this in your application? So in this case, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say, if I'm already registered, why would it take me to the first screen? I don't want to go to the registration screen. It should take me to the main menu, and the main menu has nothing but just simple screen, but you can do a lot. Yeah, you get this is just to prove the concept. All right. So now I'm going to go back to the main activity. And instead of just displaying it on the screen, I'm not going to display it on the screen. I'm going to actually take you to the main menu if you are already registered. How do you know if you're already registered? You're already registered because we found your name in the shared preference. And that's how we are going to basically program the application to know if you are registered or not. This is again locally. Yeah. So now how do we do this part? Okay, we've done this before, so I'm just gonna copy the code that will take you to the other screen. So if you're already registered, I am going to create an intent. I'm going to pass a message to the other one. And the message that I'm going to send is the username. And I'm going to show that activity. Now, you don't have to do this part if you want to. If we want to go to the other activity right away, then you don't have to do this part. Otherwise, it will flicker. So you could put an else here, and then instead of taking you to the main activity, it will take you to the second activity. So instead of doing this here, we will put it in the else statement. Now, obviously, we don't need this anymore. I don't need to set the username, and I don't need to set the text field. Why? Because I'm gonna go to the second screen. I'm not dealing with the first screen at all anymore. So the only time we've done this part now. The only time it will take me to the first screen if I am not registered. If I am already registered, it will take you to the next. If I'm already registered, it will take you to the second screen. If you are not registered, it will show you the main activity, which allow you to enter your user information to register. All right, let's go ahead and test it. I'm gonna put it in debug. And let's see what happens. Again, I have not registered yet, so it's taking me here. If I click on step over, it got the text field, it got the preference. Now it is null. Notice why? Because I uninstalled the application and we haven't clicked on registered yet. So if it is null, what should happen? It will take me to the main activity. If I click on continue, it will take me to register. So I'm going to register here. If I go back and I'm gonna put a debug point here, and then I type in this time different user. And then the password, whatever password. Again, you need to validate this, okay? And then you say omar@shhs.com. And now if you click on register, it will take this information and then register in your database in the shared preference. And then you commit it. Now, if I click on continue and I stop the application, and I'm going to debug it again, watch what happens. It will take me, it will take me to this. And now watch what happens. If I click on next, it found it. Since it's found it, that means I'm already registered. It will not take me to the main activity. It will take me to the main menu. So now if I go this, and I will pass to it the username to the main activity, to the second activity, to the main menu. If I click on run, you go to the application, now it sends me to the second application, all right? Even if I stop it, if I don't debug it here, even if I stop it, if I click on it again, because I already stored the information in the shared preference, it's going to take me to the second screen, to the main menu automatically, right? So what do we do in this main menu, the second menu? What we do in this second menu is that we can retrieve the information that we saved in the shared preference, and we can get the information that is passed from the first screen and displayed here. So I'm going to show you how to do that. All right, so let's stop. So this is what we're going to do. So remember when we showed the second intent, we passed the information to the second screen, and then we're passing the username. In the main menu, what we have, I have two fields. This field that allow me to, for the username, and this field for the email. For the username, I'm going to get it from the information that is being passed to it from the first screen. For the email, I'm going to get it from the shared preference. I'm going to show you, you can use the shared preference anywhere in your application, not only in the main activity, but anywhere in your application. So you can use it to store information and use it anywhere in your application in any activity. All right. So how do we do that? We already done the we already done this before in the previous video. So I'm going to copy the part about the message. So to get the intent. So we get an intent, and this is called my username. So we'll get the intent, we get the message that is being sent to us. This is the message that's being sent to us with the name username, just to make sure. It's called username. To make sure, you can just copy it and paste it here so you don't save your time of finding errors. And then we go to the main menu, and then you just make sure that you paste it here. And I'm sure it is the same, but just to be on the safe side. Then we're gonna put this in the name, which is my name, hello, and then your name. We have another text field. The other text field, I'm gonna get it from the shared preference. In the main menu, we already done that part. We got the shared preference, and we got this, and we say if it is equal to nil, you can do the same thing. So I'm gonna copy this code and go to the main menu and then do the same. So I'm gonna use the same shared preference. I'm not getting the username here, I'm getting user email. Of course, you can do the same thing with the password and everything. So now you can do here, you can say user email. And then if you go back to the other screen, just to make sure that we saved it under the, it's called user email. Yeah, so it is user email. And then we go to the main menu, and I'm just gonna paste it here just to be on the safe side, okay? So now what we do, we say if user email does not equal to null, what does that mean? It means that we found it, and it should not be equal to null because we already stored it in the first one. What should we do? We basically take this email, my email, and then I say what? Set text to what? To the email that I received, that I found in my preferences. So my email is going to say here is user email. Okay. So same steps. First, I got the information, I got the reference to those widgets on the screen, and this is happening on the create. We get the information, I'm doing it two ways to show you that you can do that. I'm getting the information here from the intent, from the intent that is being passed to us. Then I'm getting the shared references. And then here we have an error, the user email. If the user email is not equal to null, that means I found it in the shared preference. And then what do? We display it on the screen. So now, if I run the application, what should happen? It should happen is that it will not take me to the, I'm gonna put debugs to show you what happens. I'm gonna put a debug here. I'm going to put a debug in this one here, because to show you that it will not take me here, it will take me to this part. And if I run it, if I debug it, watch what will happen. It already knows that you already registered. Okay, now it's going to take me to the next screen. If I click on run, it's going to take me to the next breakpoint. And the next breakpoint is where? In the main menu activity. Now I can step through it. I got my intent. I got the username from the intent. And now I'm getting the information from the user preference. And then I found the email. I set the email. And if I run, you go to the simulator, and then you got your names and then the email. All right. So this is a great example to show you how we use shared preferences and how you can store user information in your app and how to program your app to know that if you're already registered, it will take you to the next screen and so forth. This is, of course, local storage, has nothing to do with the cloud, but this is a great way to do if you want to store information, user information within your application. All right, we're done for the day. I think this would be useful for you in your project, okay?